Hello and welcome back to the Retro Mary LGBT channel. I'm your host, Retro Mary, and today we're gonna go back and answer a few more of r/asktransgender's most impertinent questions. I want to note that I'm very happy with what happened with the episode last time, as we were going over getting one of the best episodes on the channel so far, views wise. So hopefully we'll be able to go over and get a few more things happening today. That being said, we have quite a few questions to go over today and a lot of good ones as well. So, that being said, let's get started. Our first question comes from random user Leet underscore 1337 asking, what does being trans femme actually feel like? As I said before in one of my posts in another LGBT community, I may happen to be trans femme. But I still feel kind of unsure to myself, as I might be feminine but not trans. So, my big trans lady buddies, could you tell me how it feels to be a trans femme psychologically, socially, and if you gone through HRT physically? Well, a lot of interesting things kind of come from this. So it's different from person to person. Obviously, I can't just be like, how does it feel to be transgender and get like a I would get a varying amount of answers because there's not one uniform experience. I could say of a few things that go over and are relatively common in the space, but this can vary from person to person. Psychologically, there is a lot of relief, usually. Seemingly someone that's been hiding for most of their life going over and learning that they're trans femme can be quite freeing. There's a lot of gender euphoria, sometimes some gender dysphoria as well. And pretty much, it's a very nice feeling when you learn that you are trans femme. You essentially align with a lot of people that relate to your gender. Things like if you're trans masculine, align a lot more with a lot of the masculine people in your life, and if you're trans femme, a lot more of the womanly people. I shouldn't say masculine because that's different, but you align a lot more with the men or the women in your life typically. That being said, obviously, femininity, masculinity, and stuff like that doesn't exactly matter when you are learning that you're trans. You could be a femboy if you really want to. You could be a trans mask femboy, and that is perfectly okay. You can be a trans femme tomboy, which is also perfectly okay. It's relatively. How do I put this? Psychologically, it's varied, but usually there's a lot of happiness, and learning more about yourself is usually a very good feeling. Socially, it can be a little awkward. Sometimes there is people that are going over, and you're just now essentially telling people, "Hey, these are my pronouns. This is how I feel. This is how things essentially are." That can be a fairly big first step when it comes to going over and transitioning socially. That being said, there are a few people that'll go over and ridicule you for it because, unfortunately, we just kind of live in that kind of world. But there are going to be a lot of struggles. But overall, if you have that support system, it's a very happy feeling socially when you're able to go over and finally be perceived for who you really are. Physically, I can't say much. I haven't taken HRT myself, but I know a few things that happen with HRT. Things like going through second puberty, which means that emotions are very freaking high. For the first 3 months, you're sometimes just kind of dead because you are not getting enough estrogen and not getting enough testosterone, so your energy levels are dropped for the first few months sometimes. You are very more in tune with a lot of your feelings, and you sometimes cry over things that are very weirdly seemingly to you because you didn't do so before, but now you are. And it's like, oh my gosh, why am I feeling this way? And you just gotta figure that stuff out. You can be a lot colder than you were before, different stuff like that. So physically, it definitely is a bit of a roller coaster, but the longer you're on it, the more and more used to it you'll get, and the more that a lot of the side effects will pass. This second question from Icy Echidna 529 states, How do I respond to HRT is dangerous? I finally figured out myself and come out to my family. I'm starting the process of getting on an HRT treatment, but my mother won't stop saying that HRT is dangerous. I haven't seen a lot of discussion on the risks, and I still haven't gotten my doctor's appointment that she wants to come to make sure the doctor warns you of the danger. How should I respond to this? Ostensibly, when it comes to the rhetoric of HRT being dangerous, it's one of the things that is a big right wing talking point. Things like, oh, the kids shouldn't have HRT or go do any surgeries because, and then they conflate surgery to HRT because you're mutilating their body. How in the world would you know what's best for them if you're just going over and destroying them from the inside out? And stuff like that. These are typically used specifically, usually around kids, around age like 5 to 18. Because A, I don't know what HRT is for that age. It's usually just puberty blockers around when puberty starts to show up until you're about 18 and then you go on hormones. There's also the fact that they just want us to be more identifiable. There's a lot of evidence that the transphobes, that always know they can tell, can't tell. They can't tell what's going on over there. And understandably so. If you haven't gone through the masculine puberty, they wouldn't be able to tell. If you've gone through the feminine puberty, well, I mean, obviously this is trans femme, of course. They wouldn't be able to tell that you were assigned male at birth. And vice versa. If you went through feminine puberty, they wouldn't be able to tell you were, if you went through masculine puberty, they wouldn't be able to tell that you were assigned female at birth. Because unless they literally look at your private body parts, how are they supposed to tell that? So that's why that kind of thing comes out, so that it's easier for people to tell when some of the more masculine traits go over and present themselves as a consequence of going through the wrong puberty. And even then, they can't, because certain cis females just have some more testosterone, and certain cis men have more estrogen, and they may just have feminine or masculine traits. So, they can't really tell very much. That being said, when you respond to HRT is dangerous, it's usually a bad faith talking point, so it's never really the best to respond to it. But considering it is the person that's going over and I guess sitting in there to make sure your doctor warns you about stuff, what I would recommend is going over and doing your research and making sure you know what is happening. A lot of trans femmes sometimes know more than the doctors in these kind of respects because some of them just don't actually look this stuff up. I would recommend sites like DIYHRT.info to be able to go over and learn more about it, as well as certain articles from Gender GP can also help you learn about different risks of HRT, the risks, all the benefits, and everything like that as well. So definitely inform yourself. Definitely make sure you know what you do, because there's a reason there's a joke. You have to be like a scientist to be able to be trans. So I wish you good luck with that, Icy Kidda. This one we have an interesting, fun one. Kooky Theme 7561 is stating they're trying to go secret agent mode at work. Okay, quick recap. I'm a 19-year-old transgender man. I've just graduated high school and been for 5 years to everyone except for safety reasons. I can't go on hormones yet. Now, I've secured my first job interview. It would be an incredible job for someone who wants to go to uni, aka themselves, or this is me, I guess, for the sanctity of the post. So let's just say I really want this job. Here's the issue. Where I'm from, at least, there's no way to change your legal documents without hormones and surgery. So, in all legal senses, I'm a woman. Therefore, if I wish to just be taken seriously at this job, which I do, I will have to present as such. It's a receptionist job, so I have devised a plan on how to not go insane. Basically, I think of it as like undercover work, a secret identity kind of deal. Yeah, it's silly, but I think he's just playing dress up because it's essentially what it is. It makes me feel a lot better. The problem? My parents are not great in this regard. Yes, they use my chosen name and pronouns, but when they deeply believe that it is just a phase I'll grow out of, and seeing as I live with them, they would absolutely twist this dress up for work thing into something it's not and make me feel like crap about myself. Any tips on how to not go crazy? TLDR, I have to present feminine at work, parents are awful about it. Help a friendly help a friendly neighborhood trans guy out. Well then, secret agent kooky theme over here. I do find your situation rather interesting. It is nice today that you found a fun way to go over and not have to think too much about dressing up as a woman to go over and be respected at your job, which is an unfortunate thing that you have to go through all of this specifically for your legal documents to be changed. That being said, I will go over and make sure you have a good friend group. You say you've been out for 5 years to everybody, but for safety reasons you can't go on hormones yet. Now, I assume you have a nice friend group, but I do want you to go over and have somewhere where you can go and be yourself. Specifically because having a place where you can go over and be the real you without having your parents disregarding you and your work not taking you seriously, I feel is a very, 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 very good thing, especially when it comes to maintaining your mental health. Having a break from all of the stupid nonsense of having to be stealth around everybody, it's just important. Also, just a note, if you do make friends with the people at work, definitely try not to bring up anything when it comes to the being trans, unless you are very, very sure they will not just go over to the boss about this or spread the information around. If you're doing this stuff for your own safety, then you gotta be very, very particular about that. Also, see if your friends are close friends with anybody at work. That may lead to something if you're not careful. Alrighty, next up we've got the tall one, 19 to 14, who seems to be looking for advice. Hello everybody, I, male 32, have been thinking a lot about if I want to transition. I've always been a little odd. I was the kid who liked art and playing imaginary games when I was younger, and I got teased, but gave back as good as I got eventually. Growing up and not of the trans or even LGBTQ stuff was very prominent until maybe my last couple of years of high school. I never really got in with the lads. I had friends who liked sports and bikes, but I felt like I was just kind of there. I remember secretly enjoying the more girly shows like Totally Spies and Kim Possible. Love you for that. As I got older, I also used to watch things the model and clothing As I got older, I also used to watch the model and clothing segments on GMTV in the morning and watch Desperate Housewives with my mom in the evening. Not that the shows mean much, just to give some context. I have had girlfriends who I have loved. Most of my male friends ended up being gay as I got older. I've always presented as straight, but messed around a little bit. And I've moved out for a while with a previous girlfriend, moved back home when we split up. Can't ever say that I've been truly happy with how I am looking back. I became a heavy weed smoker, spent a lot of time alone, and struggled to socialize. My parents split up last year after 32 years together. Oh shoot! Okay. Prepared to move out and did so this year. Just before I began my experimenting with cross-dressing. I found I really enjoyed it. Not as a sexual thing, but because I love making myself look feminine. I've gotten really into makeup, clothing, and now nails, and I love it all. Since I've moved out, I finally feel free to do some of this stuff without the fear of hiding it, and finding I'm much happier. I'm smiling in my photos. I feel great when I look passable, and I stopped smoking weed. I find myself looking at women, but more for their style and with a little jealousy. I wish I could look like that. Anyway, I've emailed a gender specialist in the UK to talk about how I'm now feeling, but wonder if anyone can offer any advice to someone feeling like me. I live in the UK. Is this similar to how any of you have felt? Are you happier now? What do I expect if I'm diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and what options are available to me? If I do decide that it's something I want, I'm likely to go private and would consider hormone therapy. As I feel at 32, I don't want to wait years on my life on a list to seek treatment. Fair enough. Well then, Tall One 1914, I can't say much when it comes to whether or not you're trans. I feel like this is something that is very personal for the individual. As I said before today, this kind of experience is different from person to person. That being said, I do think that there is some merit into a little bit of your, theories. Definitely there are some signs there, of course. Watching all the shows that are more marketed towards girls, loving your makeup, hair, wigs, and everything like that. Those are things that can point to you being trans. Keyword being can. Doesn't mean they have to. Now, this doesn't mean that you definitely just need your medical diagnosis to know if you're trans or not. A lot of kids learn that they're trans at like 5 or 6, so it's not like a doctor is always 100% needed. However, when it comes to figuring this stuff out, it's really up to you. You're the one that knows yourself better than anybody, which is something that I think needs to be said. As much as there's a maybe from me and anybody else that comes down into those Reddit comments talking about how you definitely are or you definitely are not or anything like that, what matters most is that if you think you are. You seem to have come to the conclusion that you're not 100% straight, and there's definitely something going over there. Whether you just like cross-dressing, whether you're more of a femboy, or if you're just trans. Which is okay to figure out, and take your time on it. No time is too late. Obviously, I feel like Shada, as the 32 thing was brought up a few times, no time is too late to transition. No time is too late to learn if you are trans or not. Living your best life is important, no matter what age you are at. And honestly, I do hope the best for you. I would assume that you may be trans, but obviously my word, as some random girly on the internet just trying to inform people, isn't exactly, law when it comes to your own body. For our final question today, we are going to go over to Juan Exo Pancho, stating, I would like to be a girl that's androgynous man, but I wouldn't want to transition. If I could push a button to be a cute 20-year-old, I am of that age, girl, without regarding any consequences, I would think about pushing it, and I'd rather like doing so. Since I was 13, I role-played as if I was a cute femboy on Amino. Strange eras. But as I am, I wouldn't want to transition at all. I'm starting to understand my more feminine side, where apart the toxic traits of masculinity I was raised into. I've learned that I like being dominated by my partner, and that I'm so fucking bottom sometimes. Like the few times I've put makeup on, I would rock a pink shirt in the bedroom with my partner. If I had one, as I know, I wouldn't be ashamed. They are the best. How can I explore this man's femininity? Thank you. Well, interesting question, I'll give it that. However, I do think that it does bring up an interesting point. There's obviously nothing wrong with not medically transitioning. Of course, there are a few different forms of transition. Social transition, medical transition, legal transition, and surgical transition. And of those 4, you don't have to really do any of them to be considered trans. Transitioning is just kind of the act of going through the process of physically transitioning from looking more of like one sex to the other. It does not mean you are not trans if you don't transition. Get me? So, being an androgynous male or a girl, but not wanting to transition, is perfectly understandable and okay. Honestly, I think extending what you're doing, but obviously, keeping the dominated parts in the bedroom and having more of the genuine, putting on pink shirt and makeup kind of self in the open world is perfect. You were able to go over and essentially, I think social transition is essentially what you would want to do. You'd want to go over to talk to your friends, be like, "Hey guys, I know you know me as a guy. Please address me as like with feminine pronouns for right now, just to see if I like it. And if you like it and you keep vibing with it, then you can go over and you probably learn more about yourself. And I think that's the best option there. If you don't want to delve too far into transition, social transition is one of the quickest and easiest versions of it to do. Well, I shouldn't say easiest. It's definitely not exactly easy for some people. It's one of the ones that's going to essentially be like, it's like one of the first steps for a good amount of trans people, and certainly one that is easy to reverse if you're not okay with it. That being said, I hope that everything goes well for you, and that you find that partner of yours that would be able to go over and push you down and drag you into I think that's all for our questions today. I'm definitely curious if you have any insight on anything that we've talked about today. And if so, I hope you go over and leave a comment to say what your thoughts are. What you think a question would be that you would want to hear. If there's anything in particular on r/asktransgender that you would like to see addressed. And plenty other things. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And until then, I'll see you guys later.